Hello, everybody. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are gathering to discuss Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Today, we're talking about persistence, and that persistence is willpower plus desire. I guess it really does boil down to if you want it badly enough, you are going to continue to go after it. And that's a simple way to say it. But let's share some experiences. Talk about what it looks like to us. I invite you into the open seat. Come in and share what you think when it comes to persistence and times when you thought you were and gave up too soon. Good question. Johnny, good question. So how can newpreneurs, all right, there's another word. So entrepreneurs, those who are starting something new that hasn't been done before, starting from scratch, or small business owners, those who might be duplicating an existing business model, use persistence to stay in the game and grow. Excellent question. How can we do that? One seat's open. Welcome to come in. There's 2 seats actually open. But he wants to come in and talk about persistence. And if it relates to the question, even better. If not, okay.
Hello.
Hello. There you are, my friend. How are you?
Good. But I'm still a bit raw from my experience this morning.
Oh dear.
Yeah, which is why it's perfect timing, you see, to come on here, and you'll get the kind of, I'm sure you've been there yourself when it's really, really irritating you, this problem that you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I wanted to share with your good self and your viewers here is there comes a moment where it's a kind of, the fear starts kicking in where you think, oh man, I've got to move on. I can't keep sitting with this problem. And so then you start looking for alternatives, and something within you says, no, I cannot live with the alternative solution. I have to fix this. Have you been through that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where the persistence comes in. Now, sometimes I do have to compromise, but today I just couldn't live with, I'm doing a scene with a drunk man, and I've got the perfect animation for him to be drunk. And if I can't use that animation, I'm going to have to use different camera angles. I'm going to have to really compromise. It won't be the same. So I have to have that animation. Now, stop me if I go off on a tangent. I'm just trying to share with you the journey, if you like. Is this okay? Is this what you wanted?
Absolutely. Again,
Okay.
Short-term, long-term. What you're about to describe fits both. Please go on.
Okay. So you know the consequences of my failure now. That's why I can't quit on this problem. But you know the facts. Well, you might not know, but I'm always under time pressure, and I cannot. I just, as a disciplined project manager, I cannot keep dwelling on one problem for too long. So there comes a point where you start to get a bit stressed because Muhammad and the mountain kind of thing, you know, you can't. So here's what I did. I had to calm myself down. I had to look at it again. I had to, because it's gone past logic. This is the point for you. Do you know that feeling? It's gone past logic. You've been through everything you know. I've got 6.25 years experience in this now. I know how to handle myself, and I cannot solve it. So I just kept going back. I kept going over my tracks. And eventually, and how many times, I've been in IT most of my life. How many times in my career has this been true? Throw logic out the window. Go back. Redo it. Don't worry about the why. Just redo. And sure enough, I went all the way back to the start of the chain. I redid the first thing. I didn't do anything different from last time, but this time it worked. How bizarre. 2.5 hours up my shirt for that one. Flipping heck.
And now I understand the emotional recovery.
Yeah,
That's
so I've got
intense. It's intense. There's a lot of energy involved in the tracking it down of the frustration, in the continuing to feel like you're up against the wall, the time deadline. It has to be done. I cannot walk away. I need to walk away. Ain't gonna happen. I will crawl under the desk and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of as needed, right? And I'm there with the emotional attachment. It is because, by gosh, I've already got this much. This is what I heard. I've got this much invested to this point.
yeah.
I have to keep going. I
Yeah.
have to. And again, short term or long term, I've been in both. Hats off to you for
Thank you.
going back to the beginning, throwing out the brain and the logic, and just let's go from the beginning. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks,
Yes,
Charlie.
that's it. You had the willpower and you had the desire. Combo said, isn't going to happen, not giving up. Hi, Jessica. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So this is like a perfect topic for me this morning because my husband and I are hot in the middle of purchasing a general store here in Vermont.
Okay.
And last night, a friend of mine, a well-meaning friend of mine, introduced me to her cousin who used to own a rural general store. And the woman that I talked to last night was so negative. All she could say is, I'm just telling you, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a mistake. Don't do it.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. But you know what? I was actually really grateful for it because you have to consider all sides.
Uh-huh.
But what I realized, I was talking to her and I was questioning her about her reasoning and everything like that. And I'm not saying that in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it will be that I won't feel that same way. I'm not delusional to think that no matter what, it's going to be perfect. But I think when considering the topic at hand, I think you really have to, there's that Kenny Rogers song, you got to know when to fold and you got to know when to hang in there.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Oh,
yeah,
God, yeah,
exactly.
I knew the words.
I think it's really important to be able to know the difference between when you should persist and when you should say, forget it.
Good point.
But what was really fascinating to me was this person was encouraging me to say, forget it. And what it did was it made me dig a lot deeper and look inside to see what was it that was motivating me to want this to happen. And, I'm a firm believer in, that you'll know. If you keep checking in with yourself, you'll know whether you should stay or whether you should not
Yes.
stay. Yeah. And so, I don't know if that answers any questions.
It does, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because what Napoleon Hill has been teaching us to this point is we've already been through, because the book is somewhat sequential. You're building on the understanding of, and the application of principles that some you're familiar with, some are not, right? And so as we're learning and deepening and getting better and growing, as we're studying this and applying this and practicing it and failing and succeeding and all that stuff, one of the things that he builds all of this on is you have your chief aim. What is it you're going for? Then it has to be backed by desire. In today's language, we call it the why, and it's where your gut check and where Steve's gut check was, and mine is, and sometimes we're not even asking ourselves, well, why am I doing this to begin with? It is a quick check to say, it doesn't matter how hard this is going to be, this is going to happen. That's what I heard from Steve, and that's what I'm hearing from you. Even though you had somebody bringing in a different point of view, you could look at it, ask the right questions to determine where she was coming from, and then do a gut check and say, well, that's okay for you, but nope, doesn't suit me. So we're going to keep going forward.
Well, I want to make sure that I take into consideration all the perspectives of people who've done that in the past. But when I woke up this morning, I felt like I was emotionally battered by this negativity.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to come in with, I think it's really important that for me, for me. While I can do my gut check, it's even better when I'm surrounded by people who I can bounce it off of to make sure I'm on the right path.
Absolutely. And if she'd even framed it differently, if she had said, hey, just make sure that you really check in with yourself to see if this is what you want to do. It's a really hard path you're taking. Don't be.
She had the concrete wall up, didn't she? She had the concrete wall with the big old painted sign that said, stop, don't even.
And she was totally burnt out. And I think that ties into persistence as well, burnout. Because in my experience in a different area of my life, once you cross a certain threshold of burnout, you can't go back. You cannot go back.
Yeah, it's dead to you.
Yeah.
I've actually said that to myself on some projects. You're dead to me. It's just it's done. Nah, not gonna do it.
You can make yourself sick. You can, your life can fall apart. So, to me, that just means, okay, go in with consciousness.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So she had burnt out and you recognize it, but still the experience of listening to somebody who has been to that level of burnout and then checking yourself, as you said, could be exhausting. Almost like I woke up with an emotional hangover.
Yeah.
That's what I equate it to is that it's like, oh, geez, really? And I got to tell you, in my mind, I'm already saying, well, you're off my list. I'm just not going to be talking to you anymore because you dragged me way too much, right? You were helpful for the moment, but you're not the one that's going to be a part of my moving forward, right?
No. Because there's people who throw themselves heart and soul into things. And I'm sure there'll be moments of burnout, but it doesn't mean that I have to burn out. I hope I'm not being naive about this, but I think
one of the things that I like about this book, and are you familiar with Think and Grow Rich? Have you read it?
Yeah. Okay. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read a lot of it.
So I'm going to offer to you Think and Grow Rich for Women, authorized by the Napoleon Hill Foundation, written in 2014 by Sharon Lechter. It was the turning point for me to really understand these principles because she addresses there are some differences in how men and women.
Is it written in a much easier way to understand? I have a hard time with the English, actually.
Yes, it is written in today's language, and she brings in Napoleon Hill's writings as needed. Mm-hmm. But again, it was authorized by Napoleon Hill Foundation, and it's the only one out there that really was authorized. And I'm all over it. And it's because of things like this, because Napoleon Hill tackles it from a very black and white point of view. And many of us, men included, many of us women cannot go that black and white. As much as I'd like to say I can't. We just, there's something, we're questioning. It's internal, and you did the gut check. We go for the emotion. You have to. And so that book addresses it.
I'm going to sign off the video because I've got to get ready to go.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Great stuff. Yeah, but I recommend it for any woman.
Definitely going to get it.
Because it really does address some of those differences. Some you guys who've been with me from the beginning of this program know that I've stumbled over a few things because it's like, all right, guys, you're going to have to explain this one to me. And she does so in a way that I'm able to make sense of it. But all the while.
Can you take me off video?
Pardon me?
Can you take me off the video?
Oh, sure. I'll kick you out. All right.
Yeah.
It's not often I get asked to kick somebody out. But I was going to say, even Napoleon Hill, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, or anybody else in the room, he talks about all of this throughout the review of principles for success. And it's like this balance in there without saying that we have balance. Because he talks about having a mastermind alliance. So we have other people around us that we can talk with and review things with, and we can help. He talks about not being so all in and persistent to the point of exclusion of everything else so we burn out quickly. But he brings in, because my understanding of all these principles is to make me better, which in turn helps me to gain the riches and wealth from the business that I put forth or the services that I render. What do you think, Steve?
I think there's a balance that has to come in. We're talking about burnout to the nth degree. I mean, I have an ideal, but I'm in January of this year. So right now, I'm having to adjust how I go about it. You've got a mind. I agree, things aren't always black and white, but you can see that you could be flogging a dead horse to get that extra 1%, or you could just, yeah. Or you could just
I love the visual. Okay.
Yeah. You know, or you can just stop at a certain point and say, do you know what? Now, the question I put to my mind is, can I live with myself in 10 years' time when I look back at this moment and I said, I made that decision? You know, given all of the parameters that I had to factor in. And I have come up with, it's not a compromise. It's more likely to get us the end result, but it's not what I originally wanted. So what I'm trying to get through, and it's difficult for me to put this into words, is I'm trying to keep with persistence, will, and desire. But you've got to know yourself. You've got to know what you can live with, and you've got to accept that sometimes.
But is it persistence, will, and willpower and desire on that same path? Because what I'm hearing you say is to recognize that it's not compromise, but instead you're willing to be slightly flexible and adapt. Absolutely. so that you can continue to move forward towards the end goal.
Towards the end goal. The actual way that you saw it originally, that's your guiding light, if you like. But sometimes you've got to say, yeah, but I'm getting 1% and I'm now getting to burnout. So I'm going to pull back, refresh, yeah, that's the stage I've got at. I'm going to get what I want, but I'm going to have to get it a slightly different way.
And that's where we have to be able to recognize that we really are flogging a dead horse.
I think
this
so.
Particular tactic or this direction we're going isn't conducive to reaching the end goal. And I think that's one of the things that he teaches us is, and what I've learned is how to make decisions quickly. And that's one of them. Right?
That's great.
Just to be able to recognize. So you were going to say?
I just want to make another point, and I'll give somebody else a chance to. The lady that we had on just now,
Jessica.
Jessica, very, very interesting dimension I want to bring to this is that you will meet people at a different stage of the journey that you're going down, and you will get a feedback depending on what part of the journey they're on. So let me give you a blunt example. A younger person starting out in business for the first time will, you'd hope, be full of optimism. Yeah. An older person that has seen maybe one or two businesses end on them and is starting another one will have some level of caution about them. But the lady had on before, she's not allowing somebody that's at that burnout stage to totally dominate her decision making. But you need to take in the wisdom of the people that are at different stages of the journey.
I like that. Yeah, because what you're taking in is the wisdom. You're not absorbing the entire experience so that it derails you. But instead recognizing that anyone who's gone through the experience does have some wisdom to bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I think it goes right in with Johnny's question that he's posed, which is how can you gain and maintain persistence when you experience resistance? And I'm assuming he's saying from those close to you, but I have difficulty with that one. Pardon me?
I can talk about that for hours. I won't. But
can you? I have difficulty because honestly, I kid you not. My husband will stand behind me no matter what. Literally, I've even thrown the most wackadoodie ideas out to him, and he says, "Honey, if that's what you really want to do, you've got my support."
Perfect.
It's all been in my own head. I have been the only one in my way.
That's
literally.
That's great. Well, that's
Yeah,
great.
well, yeah, except
So-
that all these years later, she now recognizes it and says, well, I had everybody rooting for me, but darned if I did anything.
Well, forgive
Yeah, there's
yourself,
a
because
look
we
in the
learn
mirror
as we go
moment.
along. Yeah, but
Go ahead.
we learn as we go along, don't we? So you got to forgive yourself. The 20-year-old me.
Oh, I'm working. Yeah, you're a good point.
Hi, Johnny.
So, hi, Johnny.
Well,
Did
good
you
morning.
make it out?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I did. Can you hear
You're-
me? Well,
yes.
great. Hey, listen, this is a very, very good topic this morning. I'm looking at the resistance that I face and things that I desire to do, and I've even put out the willpower to do, but the resistance from family, friends, or those that I care about or trust, I kind of makes me want to put the brakes on. So I guess the question that we have to ask ourselves at whatever stage we are is, how do we continue? What is the innate ability that allows us to persist until we get to the point of actually accomplishing or manifesting the thing that we're desiring to do? I guess that's the question.
Hmm.
Can I
Yes.
say something on that? And then I will disappear. Thank you so much for your.
Oh,
allowing
You
me
don't
on.
have to disappear,
Oh,
Steve.
okay. Well, I'm going to have to.
You're welcome
eat
to
the
stay.
camera.
Oh, all right. Then yeah.
That's important.
I have not. I have. I just want to say I have not had support of friends and family. My dear wife does support me, bless her heart, and so I've faced opposition for decades. Okay, and I've faced opposition financially. There's always going to be opposition. What takes me through is I do not want to live in a future where I didn't see this project through. Now, I hope that inspires you, because that's what keeps me going. At some point, life moves quite quickly. I'm going to be looking back at this period. I do not want to say I didn't give it my best shot. And that's what motivates me every day. And with that, I wave and I disappear to the sidelines.
Thank you so much, Steve. So good to have you here. Well, Johnny, so the first thing that came to my mind, simply because I have not experienced that, what you're talking about, is at what level are they resisting? What is the resistance? Is it that, well, it's the change in income, so now I have to change the way I live because you are no longer bringing the income in? Is it an embarrassment of what you're bringing because you're doing something that I'm embarrassed to be associated with? Is it I don't understand and I can't talk to you? So, it's more than just somebody doesn't like my idea. There's a reason for the resistance. And the closer somebody is to me, the more inclined I'm going to be to wonder, why are you resisting? And can we talk about this and then determine whether or not it actually applies to me? That's kind of how I view it.
I think that more important than them resisting because it causes some type of problem within, is that I find that as I create and desire and intend to move forward in a project, an idea, or a focus, that there are people that, if I move forward toward that idea and accomplish it, it kind of leaves them lacking.
Yes.
It leaves them in a position where now I've gone past them,
Yes.
and they would rather hold me back or hold me there because they enjoy the me that was there with them before I moved forward to accomplish what I'm accomplishing. And I think that's the resistance that is put it into our own spirit, that we accept the fact that moving forward will leave others behind. So we want to stay with them, but at the same time, there's a desire to move forward.
I've had that. Now, I've also had where I actually have had to let go of people. And it's because
That's hard.
That one's the tough one. But it is the recognition. Well, first, let me back up even more to say I was able to do that because I had others around me. So while it was hard, it didn't set me apart and set me off on completely alone on my little island. I still had a handful of people who I had moved into. Because what happened was, as I was
Right.
moving out of one circle of friends, I was moving into another, and it was a slow, it wasn't just, okay, everybody, I'm walking away from you, and okay, everybody, here's a new one, new set. It was the letting go slowly of one as I was adding in the others. So I had them, but yes, it's difficult because even today, when I come across them, it's amicable and amiable, but it's still, we don't have anything to talk about.
Because you're somebody new, you're
yeah, that's
different,
right.
you've evolved.
That's right. I don't even know I've evolved as much as I've grown. And I've grown differently, and I think differently, and I see things differently. And so I'll be in a
Is that
conversation
bad?
and I'll be listening. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. And I'll be in a conversation with them because, again, it's still, wave at you, and I care. And a year or 2 or 3 or 4 have gone by, and we'll have a cup of coffee, and in 15, 20 minutes, I'm realizing we have absolutely nothing to talk about. I'm listening to things that are so far off of how I view the world today that there's really nothing to talk about. And yes, it does. It's painful. It's painful because some of them were very,
So
very close.
We're
But
close. How do you reconcile that pain and then remain on task and on target?
well,
to say
again,
that,
it's a
what
recognition that
I've intentioned.
one thing that detachment comes in real handy. I can love you, but I don't have to like you. And that's pretty much where it comes to, is the recognition. It's an honest assessment of the reality of who I am and who's coming into my life and who's having to walk out. Now, some of it's been where other people have walked out. It's been just as painful. I just don't care as much because they've decided that they're not interested in continuing anything. But it's those handful over the years that, it just happens. Now, this is interesting, as Steve's bringing up. Is it possible to meet someone from your past who held you back and say, look, you've moved on, I've moved on, let's start as if we've just met? I'm sure it's possible. I'm not the one to ask about that.
Desirable.
I'm neither.
Yeah.
That's as far as I can go based on my own experience and based on the way I see things. I am not, just so you know, I am not anywhere near a relationship expert. So I don't know. Mine is.
Well, so relationships are more than just that dynamic of finding someone that you're close to, that you're connected with. Relationships are saying, do you value that person or that experience enough that you would be willing to go through the pain of remaining, or through the joy of letting go and going? See, Dr. Napoleon Hill teaches that desire. When we get to that point of we recognize and we accept and internalize that desire, then the willpower, the persistence, and everything necessary will kick in to take us to that next point.
Right.
So do we feel guilty that we left others that didn't decide to take another step forward or forward with us? That guilt is what I think holds us.
No, guilt implies that I did something wrong. I'll feel badly.
Exactly.
I'll feel badly that you didn't come along with me. I can recall, and I can actually right now picture some faces of people that you're still sitting in your dirty diaper. I found a way to change the diaper and move on from it. Here's how I did it. Oh, you're not interested. Okay. That's where that detachment comes in for me. Again, I can love from a distance and move on in most cases. And then there are those 1 or 2 that it was very painful to have to walk away and say, I really wish you could be with me on this. Really wish you could be with me. And it's not that I was doing anything. It was the change in me that was happening. My perspective on the world, how I viewed things. One in particular is a pessimist through and through. It doesn't matter. They have gotten to the point where it was, I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I just walk away. No, you're not. you've set yourself up that you are the pessimist and there's absolutely no other way to view something. There's nothing to talk about. Just as an example, I have to walk away from that, you know. Whereas one time we enjoyed, it becomes toxic, right? So we have to make those decisions for ourselves. And that's as good as I'm going to go. I can't go much further with that one again. I am not a relationship person.
That's where the willpower comes in. When you've made your mind up, you have an intention that you're going to move forward toward a specific position. The desire, in spite of or because of, and then those people that you leave behind or that you grab hold to and move forward with, the acceptance, the internal acceptance, and then the focus of going where you want to go allows you to let go of some and to embrace others and to be unapologetic about it.
Okay. It's a nice way to put it. I can understand that.
Yeah.
So I guess that you have persistence, right?
I have persistence in a unusual way. The persistence is that I've made up, that I've internally made a decision. And that decision is that the vision that I'm pursuing may include you. And if it doesn't, then great. But then you can watch or you can walk away from and don't even recognize it. But I'm going to move on because that's important to me. And
exactly.
When you get to the point where when you love yourself, you've accepted yourself, and you've got the desire and the willpower to move forward, then that persistence will remove resistance and bring forth manifestation.
And that's what Napoleon Hill's teaching us.
Exactly.
That's it. Exactly. Is that we have our chief aim, which is the ultimate goal. What is it we all ultimately are working towards? We have faith. Mm-hmm. We have that desire, that intense emotion attached to it as to why we want to do this. What's the motivation? Why is this important to us? And how important is it? Is it important enough that we are going to basically burn the bridges?
Well, how intense you have to just cross the bridges.
Sometimes you have to burn the bridge. Yeah. Sometimes you have to burn the boats. Sometimes there is no going back. Like Steve was saying, I love that question he posed to himself, is that, am I willing to compromise in this? No. Hitting a deadline, hitting a time limit, hitting a possible, I'm going to have to give up this tactic or this piece. I'm going to have to do something different, and then was inspired to go back to the beginning, and that piece of the project was fixed. But it would have had a drastic effect on the end goal, which is why I think he found deep inside whatever, even just on the surface, by God, this is going to happen. And I think that's also what I can recognize as I move forward with my business, is I'm able to recognize opportunities, and when I'm involved with them, is this really putting me on the path towards my end goal? Is this helping or hurting? And if it's helping, we're going to stick with it. If it's hurting, we're going to make adjustments. Because if I'm pulled away from that which is building my business, then that's where I'm going to have the regrets, and that's where I'm going to be upset with myself, and so the ability to say no along the way, but also in the middle of the yes, to be able to back away and say, I made a mistake. No, this isn't.
Yeah. Now that's the hard part. Yeah. Because persistence means that you're going to you keep on in spite of it, and you can look and see that you've made some mistake or some tactical errors in judgment, and then you're confronted with that prior self, that self that wasn't on the path that you are right now. So that regression or going back to pre-persistence puts you into a position where you may get stuck. And the key, I think, to everything that I've been looking at and understanding with Napoleon Hill's writing is that you can get beyond stuck and keep moving forward to path if you allow that principle of persistence to become a part of your personality.
Yes. Yes. Now, one of the things that I had difficulty with from other people, it wasn't what I was going after. It was my method of going after it. And here, I'm going to throw this out to the women in the audience. That's one of the reasons I'm so glad I came across this book. All right. She confirmed a lot of things that the older women had been telling me all along on how to let go of the responses and reactions of other people. Because I'm a one-track minded person. I'm dogged. Persistence is not a problem. If I set my eyes on it, trust me, that is not one of my problems. It really is not. If I set my eye on something, it's going to happen. Come hell or high water. I don't care who you are. I will bug the bejeebies out of you. I will do whatever is necessary to get it done. The problem with that comes in when, and this is the part where I've had to reconcile, is that I was always told ladies don't act this way. Number one. Number two,
well, think like a man and act like a lady.
You're being rude. You're being rude. You know. Number three is sometimes you have to set yourself aside so that somebody else can succeed. You know. If you would just not be so loud about that. If you would just keep it to yourself. Yeah, we know that's what you're working on and what have you, but come on over here. Break your state. Stop that concentration focus. Come over here and be with us. That's where the lack of understanding of how I work comes into play, but also society and partial family, not so much, but it was society and teachers. That is where it came from. And that's what I meant by Napoleon Hill speaking in that black and white and the way things are laid out. One of the things I've had to deal with, and I have, I'm old enough now, screw you. But it's, honestly, I've been through too much. I've lived through too much. I've passed the middle age. Just go away. If I'm going to be one track minded, you're just going to live with it. And I have a husband of over 25 years who just laughs and he says, oops, she's on a project, and walks away. But anyway, having said that, that is something I see a lot of women go through, is they still hear it today. Women don't do that.
Well, men go through that as well. Anytime you have a dogged determination and a desire that's on fire, the people around you, people close to you, people that you have in your circle of influence are going to look at it and it's going to affect them. Now, they're either going to get on board with it and fuel your persistence, or it's going to make them uncomfortable, because by your following your dream or operating in willpower to pursue your desire, it puts them into an awkward position. It makes them realize either, number one, they're not pursuing their dream, or that your dream has become so important that they either have to support it or just walk away from it. And this shouldn't be the if ands, but those are the realities that we face on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we're talking
slightly
different things. Okay.
Well, slightly different things, but actually the same thing. I'm saying that when you have a focus on a desire, and that desire is something that you have developed the willpower and the want power that you're going to actually pursue it, it causes people around you to either get uncomfortable because you're doing something that is different and unique and what have you, or it causes them to want to assist you. And what you're saying is that you've got a support system, or some of those that don't accept it and they just kind of like fade away. I'm saying that in the process of following your desire.
I was talking about, well, Ken, yeah, there's assertiveness and aggressiveness. Yes. And there is that level too. And I've dealt with that portion. For me personally, and this goes right directly to why I'm not really good with relationships, is when I get my mind on something, I am literally one track minded. you have to, my husband has learned how to break my state. I will work on something 6, 8, 10 hours, forget to eat, forget to walk away and what have you. It is that, and then I'll go back to it. And I will wake up in the middle of the night and I will work on the project. I will, get it out of my head. I have to stop. The only way to stop the brain is for me to keep working on something sometimes. So that's something because you see, and this is what I was told repeatedly as a youngster, is that it's rude to ignore people. It is rude not to make the first step towards something. I don't do that now. I don't have a problem with it now because I'm older. I'm just saying that I've met a lot of women who are still doing it to other women now. And they're saying that, if you're that focused on something, why do you even try to have friends, or why do you even try to have a relationship? That it's more important that you be caring of other people than of what you're doing for yourself. That there's a lot of things in there. I could go even further. The women in the group, I think, understand where I'm coming from at the level I'm talking about. And I totally agree with what Johnny is saying. Totally. That the behavior of somebody who is that persistent can be off-putting. But also, if I don't understand where you're going, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Because then what can I talk to you about? How can I help? Exactly. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
And the question you have to ask is are they important enough in your circle of influence that you value their position or their idea? Yeah. And,
yes.
And that's the hard part to come to that conclusion. Yes. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
And it's even your peculiar or particular focus is from a female point of view. Now, I'm gonna throw another dynamic in, and it's not meant to be polarizing, but to be really just opening the discussion. From a African American point of view, there are those positions where I need to be in a specific lane. As a woman, there's a specific lane that you need to be in. And if we cross boundaries and get out of that lane, either in pursuit of that desire or what have you.
That's it. You just named it, yes.
Okay. Well, we'll go with it. I'll let you speak on that.
No, please continue. I'm just agreeing. I get it. I get exactly, because that was what I was talking about, was that there were there's a set of rules for me to be a woman in society today. Standards, rules, whatever we want to call them. Yes. Yeah. Expectations, whatever they may be. And they're different for me than they are for you. I'm a female white. You are a male African American. So there's different molds, I guess.
Dynamics people want lanes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, same thing. That's it.
So as we pursue our purposes, as we pursue our desires and our passions, we have to see that some people are going to be offended or off-put, as you put, by our persistence in that direction. And I think we have to ask or answer the question with our own core is, does their opinion matter? And what you're saying is that you've developed a dogged enough determination where if it's important to you, you're willing to pursue it, even at the expense of relationship, at the expense of acceptance, etc.
Yeah, and that's the tough part.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anita, I think so. I can hear him just fine. Can everybody else hear Johnny? I want to make sure that.
I might need to refresh, so I'll get off and give someone else the chance to
everybody
get in
can
your
hear
hot seat. And I like it.
Oh, okay. No hot seats here. I want open discussion. There's three seats here.
Comfortable seat.
Oh dear, I didn't want that to happen. Well, actually, for me, I want it to happen because that means I'm growing. I'm thinking things through. And yes, Ken, yes, it's often a self-imposed restriction on all of it. So really what Johnny was saying that brought it down to the brass tacks of things, right? Is, do we want something badly enough to hurt over relationships that have to be left behind or changed? Are we willing to let go of some and replace with others? And in my case, I have been when it comes to friends. I have not had to deal with that in my personal relationship with my marriage or with my family members, to be quite honestly. I've not had to deal with that in terms of leaving them behind. Now, y'all need to know that the only one I see on a regular basis is my husband. So everybody else lives at quite a distance, so I don't see them regularly. So that's why I say I'm not the one to be providing anybody any guidance in terms of how to approach family and how to work with those who are very, very close to us family-wise. Because where I live right now, the only family I have is my husband. That's it. The nearest one is about 5 hours away. Oh, sorry. Nearest closer to 2.5, 3 hours away. Sorry about that. And then there's one 5 hours away, and the other one right now is about 14 hours away. And then another one is about 8. So I don't see them regularly. And haven't for years.
So do you think that you attracted that into your life because the support your husband gives you doesn't detract you from pursuing or being persistent?
I could not make any. Yeah, I didn't understand. I have no idea what you're asking me.
Okay, I'm saying that all of your other family and friends are distance away from you, except your husband. He's in full support of you. Do you think that you attracted that? He's physically there, but did you attract that dynamic that allowed him to be there in support of you, and those that may be non-supportive to be in areas that are at a distance?
Well, I come from a family that moves around a lot. Their jobs move them. The circumstance. I grew up moving around a lot. I stopped counting the moves even with my husband at 27. I just stopped counting them. And we've moved multiple times since then. And it's circumstances, jobs, economy, and same thing with the family members is, jobs taking me elsewhere and what have you. So that is a normal dynamic within my family, which is we're not attached to the structure, we're attached to the people. Home is where my husband is, literally. And it's the same way with my brothers and my mom and my father. It's a nice structure. Got to move. Okay. The wife comes, the kids come, the family comes. So it's a little different than many others that I've come across. So I don't.
So if they were closer, do you think that your persistence in certain projects would be as pronounced?
Oh, yeah.
If the extended family were closer, because they wouldn't detract or derail you?
When we gather, my husband, it's funny, my youngest brother is just like I am. And we've been working on something for years. And the only time we work on it is when we get together. And it might be a year or two before we get together again. But this is the funny part. We walk into the house and I spend the time with sister-in-law and the nieces and nephews and what have you. And my husband had to point this out. He says, all is well. And then all of a sudden we look over and there's Charlene and Mike. And we know we're never going to see you. We know that you two are gone, and we're in our corner and we're having a ball. We're working on something. And so everybody else they'll leave. They will leave the house and they will go and we'll look up and they'll come in and they'll say, yeah, we went out on the lake and we went skiing and we went fishing and did all sorts of things. You might want to join us tomorrow, but until then, we'll see you next time.
So they allow you and empower you to persist on your focus.
Yeah. The thing is that I don't know that they would allow it I don't know if they would allow it if we lived closer together, honestly, and we saw each other regularly, because it's very, very different.
It would be clustered then, and it would be.
That's what I mean.
So
I can't speak to that.
You would feel that.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. This is my experience, right? And that's why I say, I kid you not, the only person that's ever gotten my own way is me. Honest to gosh truth. And
how do you get out of your own way? That's the question. How do you get out of your own way so that your persistence becomes that willpower and desire?
And that's where
I'm going to sign off and let you speak to that. How about that?
Johnny, you're awesome.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. I enjoyed having it. So glad you were finally able to get on here. So glad of that.
Yeah, because remember last week we tried it. It was a snafu.
It was a constant. You were persistent. It just wasn't agreeing with you. Bless your heart.
See, there's that word again, persistence.
Yes, keep trying.
I'll be back.
Thank you. So yeah, to address that, that's what Napoleon Hill walks us through. And that's why it's so important that he literally walks you through, well, what is your chief aim? Well, now that you've identified it, what's it going to take for you to get it? And all those principles we've been talking about, faith, persistence, the desire, and decision-making, and auto-suggestion, all of those things come into play to teach me how to do these things we're talking about even better, so that I am better for it and I am a better person for it. It can be taught, and most of it can be taught. Every once in a while, Napoleon Hill will come out with, there are some things that we just can't do a thing about, right? So hold on and let me, because he talks about in here a habit of lack of persistence, procrastination, lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. These are things that pretty much you have control over. The habit of relying on excuses. The one thing he says that we have little remedy for, and there's no hope for those who suffer from it, he calls it self-satisfaction. And I wonder if he doesn't mean we're settling and we're quite okay with exactly where we are, which removes all ambition, which means why would you be persisting towards something? Indifference is a symptom of lack of persistence. Blaming others. Your desire for something isn't strong enough. Willingness to quit at the first sign of defeat because you're afraid. Fear is overwhelming. It's stronger than what you've set your goals on, and what you've set your eyes on, and what you've set you have that go back to the faith, right? Let's build up that faith. And lack of plans. The habit of neglecting to move on ideas. I was saying that I'm quicker to say yes to things now that are in line with where my business is headed. And I think that's what he's talking about, is that, let's move on them. Let's go. Those who know me know I'm a doer. Nothing. The one thing that will slow me up or will annoy me is, why aren't you doing it? Let's go. I've had people ask to collaborate with me on things, and we've had the talk, and then they say, so give me a call next week. So no, what is it we're going to do? Well, we can talk about it some more. No, there's no more talking. We've already decided we would be doing something like this. Oh, well, I'm not sure. Well, they're not on my list of doing things together. I do. Let's go. Wishing instead of willing it to happen. Wishing. Well, I wish. If you find yourself, this is what I envision. You find yourself always saying, well, I wish things were different. I wish the economy were better. I wish I didn't have this house to take care of. I wish. Then you come to me with that. Eventually, I'm going to say, if wishes were horses, we'd all have a ride. What are you going to do about it? Habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. That to me is settling. I do live in an area where many, many, many people have settled. And you can see it, they're automatons. They've settled. And they'll say, well, why do you want to make more money? In $15 enough? $15 an hour enough? That's enough. That's enough for me. It should be enough for you. Isn't $50,000 a year enough? Why do you need more? Or those who are, well, I'm getting by just fine on $11 an hour. I have no ambition for anything more because I'm getting along just fine. You know, that willingness to compromise. And then we touched on this a little earlier. Fear of criticism. Any kind of fear can be the block. And that means that you're lacking in persistence, is essentially what Napoleon Hill is saying. There's no single one answer to any of these. That's why I like the way the book is laid out, and it's meant to be studied and again and again and again and again. We are on our third run through since August, and we will be going on another run through to explore it some more, because these are principles for living that I've learned. In some cases I have some of these principles, and others don't. They weren't there. Flat out, we're not there, and need to explore and start working on this and start trying it myself and put it to use. And they're working. I'm feeling much more confident. I am not afraid of the same things I was afraid of before. And I've noticed that when I am anxious and uncertain, I go to my mastermind, my alliance, those group of people, my inner circle. And I belong to a formal mastermind group, but I also have an inner circle of friends and whose judgment in business and in life I value and trust. And I go to them and kind of throw it out at them. A couple of reasons: I can say it out loud and I can hear myself say it, which oftentimes is enough for me to say, this isn't going to work, or yes, I really am on the right path. And then sometimes is to hear their response, because these are people that will ask the right questions. And what I mean by that is they're not going to ask, why would you do something like that? Instead, they'll ask, so what does it look like? What does it look like if you go move forward like this? Well, what if you did it this way instead? Would you get the same result you're looking for? That's what I mean by right questions. So we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to close down the recording, keep the room open for at least another 30 minutes. For those who want to have a discussion, feel free. I want to thank those who've joined me in the live stream. Jessica, it was great meeting you. Johnny, so glad you were finally able to make it in here. And Steve, some great input about what it looks like short-term in persistence. And everything you described, I honestly can see how it can be laid out for long-term. How to look at what we're doing now and how it affects where we want to end up. Do I want to look back and be upset that I didn't give it just that little bit of extra? How important is it, right? And those in the comment section, thank you so much for being here. I've enjoyed having you here. And those watching the recording, thanks for hanging with us this long. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.